December 22nd, Portland, Oregon. The kind of morning where the cold doesn't just touch your skin, it gets inside. Fine as the places where hope used to live. Elias Brennan woke to the sound of pigeons fighting over scraps in the rafters above him. 13 years old, 11 months homeless. But who was counting? The abandoned warehouse on Burnside had been his shelter for the last 3 nights. Before that, an underpass near the river. Before that, the loading dock behind a closed-down grocery store. You learn not to get attached to places. Everywhere was temporary when you had no right to be anywhere at all. He sat up slowly. His breath came out in white clouds. The sleeping bag he'd pulled from a dumpster 2 months ago had a tear along the side. Stuffing leaked out like the building itself was bleeding. Cold seeped through anyway. Cold always found a way. His body ached in the specific way that comes from sleeping on concrete. Shoulders stiff, hip bones bruised from pressing against unforgiving ground. He'd stopped noticing most of it. Pain became background noise when you had bigger problems, like staying alive, like staying invisible. The jacket lay beside him, folded carefully, the way his father had taught him to fold things. Military corners, respect for your gear, even when your gear was falling apart. Charcoal gray, heavy canvas, the kind of military surplus you could find in any Army-Navy store if you had the money to buy it, which Eli didn't. His father had bought it 7 years ago, wore it through winters that tried to kill softer men, wore it overseas in places he never talked about much, wore it the day his heart gave out in the middle of an intersection with his son, sitting in the passenger seat watching him die. Eli picked up the jacket now, ran his fingers over the worn fabric. There was a patch on the sleeve his father had sewn on himself. The stitching was crooked but strong. The collar still smelled faintly of the cologne his dad wore. Old Spice, the cheap kind, the kind that lingered even after everything else was gone. This jacket had kept his father alive through God knows what. And for the last 11 months, it had kept Eli alive through something worse. The slow, grinding death of having nowhere to go. No one to go to. Nothing but the clothes on your back and the constant question of whether you'd see another sunrise. He pulled the jacket on, zipped it up, felt its weight settle on his shoulders like armor, like his father's hand resting there one more time. The morning routine started. Check your surroundings. Make sure nobody had come in during the night. Make sure the exits were still clear. Make sure you were still alone. Being alone was safer. People meant complications. People meant questions. Questions meant cops. Cops meant foster care. Foster care meant the kind of hell that made sleeping on concrete look like mercy. He tried the system 2 months after his dad died. 2 months of being passed between people who got paid to pretend they cared. 2 months of learning that adults would hurt you just because they could. Just because you were small and had nowhere to run. Until you did run. That was 9 months ago. 9 months of learning a different kind of survival. The kind that didn't come with a handbook. Eli grabbed his backpack. Everything he owned fit inside. One change of clothes, a water bottle with a crack in the side, a pocket knife his father had given him for his 12th birthday, 3 granola bars he'd lifted from a gas station 2 days ago, a composition notebook where he wrote things down, kept track. Day 334 without Dad. The kind of inventory that would fit in a paragraph. The kind of life that could disappear without anyone noticing. He left the warehouse through the back, moved quietly, like a ghost, like something that was never really there. The streets were empty at this hour, 6:30 in the morning. December cold that felt like teeth. The city hadn't woken up yet. Businesses still dark. Traffic lights blinking for no one. This was Eli's favorite time, when Portland belonged to the invisible people, the ones nobody wanted to see. He walked with purpose, head down but not too down, eyes aware but not paranoid. You had to find the balance. Look like you belonged somewhere, even when you belong nowhere. Look like you had somewhere to be, even when every place was the same kind of nowhere. The first challenge of every day was food. His stomach had stopped growling months ago. Now it just ached, a constant hollow feeling that became normal. You learn to live with hunger, learn to function on whatever scraps you could find. He knew which restaurants put their trash out early, knew which dumpsters were worth checking, knew the difference between food that was salvageable and food that would make you sick enough to die. The learning curve had been steep. He'd been sick 3 times, bad enough that he thought maybe dying would be easier, but he hadn't died. That felt like its own kind of victory. Behind the Italian place on Morrison, he found half a loaf of bread, only a little stale, wrapped in plastic. Someone's leftover dinner. He ate it standing there in the alley, didn't taste it, just chewed, swallowed, gave his body fuel to keep going. A cat watched him from atop a dumpster, orange tabby, skinny like him. They made eye contact, 2 survivors sharing space. The cat didn't run. Eli didn't shoo it away. Unspoken understanding between things that lived in the margins. This was life now. This was normal. And the worst part wasn't the hunger or the cold or the fear. The worst part was how quickly you got used to it, how fast the impossible became routine, how a boy who used to have a bedroom and a father and something called a future could adapt to having nothing at all. By 7:30, the sun was trying to come up, weak winter light that didn't warm anything, just made the shadows longer, made the world look washed out, gray and tired and defeated. Eli walked his circuit, past the coffee shop where people lined up for drinks that cost more than he'd seen in a week, past the boutique selling clothes that looked warm, past windows full of things he couldn't have, couldn't even want anymore. Wanting hurt too much. A man in a suit walked past, talking on his phone, laughing at something. He didn't see Eli. Nobody saw Eli. That was the trick. Be there but not there. Exist but don't impose. Take up as little space as possible and maybe the world would let you keep existing. By 8 a.m., he was moving again. Couldn't stay in one place too long. Cops did morning sweeps, chased off the homeless population before the business owners showed up and complained. Portland liked to think of itself as progressive, compassionate, but compassion had limits, and those limits usually ended where visibility began. Eli had a circuit, a loop through the city that kept him moving but not aimless. Library opened at 9. He could sit there for a few hours, use the bathroom, warm up, pretend to read while his body remembered what it felt like to not be cold. The librarians knew. You could see it in their eyes, but they didn't say anything. Small mercies. You learn to be grateful for small mercies. But today was December 22nd, 2 days before Christmas. The library had different hours, closed for the holiday season, closed when people needed it most. He stood outside the locked doors, read the sign, felt something that might have been disappointment if he let himself feel anything at all. The glass doors reflected his image back at him. Thin face, dark circles under his eyes, hair too long. The kind of kid people cross the street to avoid. When had he started looking like this? Like someone who'd already given up. Like someone who was already halfway gone. Plan B, the warming shelter downtown. But shelters came with rules. ID checks, questions about guardians, systems designed to catch kids like him and feed them back into the machine. He'd been caught once, not again. The sky was the color of old bruises, gray and purple and sick. Weather reports had been screaming about it for 2 days. A storm coming, the kind they gave names to, the kind that broke records and killed people too stubborn or too poor to get out of its way. Coldest night in 50 years, they said. Historic, they said. Like history mattered when you were trying not to freeze to death. Eli pulled his jacket tighter, felt the weight of it, the responsibility. This jacket was the difference between survival and becoming another statistic nobody would remember. He'd guarded it like his life for 11 months, because it was his life. The temperature was dropping even now. Mid-morning, and already he could see his breath crystallizing in the air, could feel the wind picking up, carrying the promise of something worse, something that would test every lesson he'd learned about staying alive. He needed shelter, real shelter, the kind with walls and heat, but those places were filling up fast. Everyone knew what was coming. The invisible population of Portland was scrambling, fighting for spots. And Eli was 13, small, easy to overlook, easy to push aside when bigger, stronger people decided they deserved warmth more than he did. He tried the church on Everett first, got there at 9:15, the line already wrapped around the block. 40 people ahead of him, maybe 50 behind. The line moved slow, so slow. Each minute outside, another minute of heat bleeding from his body. Each person ahead of him, another barrier between him and safety. The wind picked up, cut through the line like a blade. People huddled together, shared cigarettes, shared stories, shared the misery of waiting. Eli stood alone, didn't know these people, didn't trust them. Trust was a luxury he couldn't afford. An old woman in front of him turned around, looked at him with watery blue eyes. "You got people, kid." Eli shook his head. "Family." Another shake. She looked like she wanted to say something, maybe offer help, maybe offer pity, but then she turned back around, faced forward. Whatever impulse she had felt passed. That was how it worked. People wanted to care, but caring was hard. Looking away was easier. After an hour, Eli reached the front. A man in his 50s stood at the door, clipboard in hand, tired eyes. The kind of tired that came from too many nights like this. Too many people needing help. Too few resources to give it. "Sorry, son," the man said before Eli could even ask. "We're at capacity. Fire marshal says we can't take anyone else. Liability issues." "Just for tonight," Eli said, hating how small his voice sounded. How desperate. "I won't take up much space. I can sleep in a corner. Anywhere." The man's expression crumbled. Like each kid he turned away took a piece of him. Like he was dying by degrees. One rejection at a time. "I'm sorry, truly. Try the mission on 3rd. Maybe they've got room." "Do they?" The man hesitated, looked away. That was answer enough. "God bless you, son," he said. The words hollow. Useless. God wasn't blessing anyone on this street. Eli walked away, 20 blocks to the mission on 3rd. The cold was worse now, real, present, the kind that made you count your breaths, made you wonder how many more you had left. His fingers were going numb inside his pockets. He pulled them out, blew on them, shoved them back in, temporary relief. It would get worse, much worse, and he had nowhere to go. The mission on 3rd was the same. Different building, same line, same desperate faces, same answer. A woman at the intake desk, young, maybe late 20s, trying to look professional, trying to maintain boundaries, but you could see the cracks, the places where her compassion leaked through. Age 13. She looked up, really looked at him for the first time. 13, are you here with a parent or guardian? No. Where are your parents? Dead. The words sat there. Heavy. Final. The woman's pen stopped moving. "I'm sorry, but we can't take unaccompanied minors without going through proper channels. Child services, foster care placement, it's the law. I just need a place to sleep." "I understand, but my hands are tied. If I take you in without proper authorization, I could lose my job. This place could lose its funding. Then nobody gets help." The logic made sense, probably. But logic didn't keep you warm. Logic didn't stop you from freezing to death. "There's a youth shelter on Sandy," she said. Softer now, like soft words made the rejection easier. "They specialize in cases like yours. They can help." But they couldn't help, not really. The youth shelter meant intake forms, background checks, the system finding him, sending him back into foster care, back into the place where a man's grip left bruises that lasted weeks, where no one listened when you said you weren't safe. Thank you, Eli said, because what else was there to say? He left, back into the cold, back into streets that kept getting emptier, businesses closing early, people hurrying home, getting ready for the storm, getting ready to be safe, getting ready to survive. Eli tried 4 more places: church annex on Burnside, shelter near the waterfront, community center on Division, Salvation Army on Grand. Same story everywhere. Full, over capacity. Try somewhere else. Sorry, kid. Good luck. Good luck. By noon, he'd exhausted his options. Nowhere to go, nowhere that would take him, nowhere that was safe. He sat on a bench near Pioneer Square, watched people hurry past. Everyone had somewhere to be. Everyone had someone waiting. Christmas shopping bags, warm coats, the kind of thick winter gear that cost more than Eli had seen in a year. They moved past him like he wasn't there. And maybe he wasn't. Maybe he'd already disappeared. Maybe his father's death had erased him and he'd just been a ghost this whole time, walking through a world that couldn't see him, didn't want to see him. A family walked by. Mom, Dad, 2 kids. The little girl was complaining about the cold. The mother knelt down, zipped her daughter's coat higher, tucked her scarf in, the small gestures of someone who cared, someone who was there. Eli looked away. That hurt worse than the cold. The reminder of what he'd lost, what he'd never have again. His fingers were going numb. He shoved them deep in his pockets, felt the pocket knife, the cold metal, the notebook where he'd been keeping count. Day 334. Would there be a day 330 feet? Did it matter? The afternoon crawled by, temperature dropping degree by degree, the sky getting darker even though sunset was hours away. Storm clouds rolling in like an invading army, low and heavy and full of violence. By 2 o'clock, snow started. Not the gentle kind, not the Christmas card kind. Hard pellets that stung when they hit your face. Wind driving them sideways. Visibility already dropping. Eli pulled his jacket hood up, tucked his chin down, kept walking. Because stopping meant freezing. Freezing meant dying. And he wasn't ready to die. Not yet. Not when he'd fought so hard to make it this far. By 3 o'clock, the storm had arrived in full. The kind of snow that erased the world, made streets unrecognizable, made 3 feet ahead of you impossible to see. Wind howling between buildings, finding every gap, every weakness. Eli moved through this business district, looking for anywhere, any overhang, any doorway that might block the wind. Everything was closing early, businesses shutting down ahead of the storm, metal gates rolling down, lights going dark, the city tucking itself in, leaving the streets to whoever was desperate enough or stupid enough to stay out. That's when he saw them. Motorcycles, a line of them, parked outside a low building with a neon sign that read the Iron Den. Maybe 15 bikes, chrome already getting dusted with snow. The kind of heavy machines that look like they could ride through hell and come out the other side. The building itself looked like it had been there forever. Brick and wood, small windows, solid. The kind of place that didn't care about looking pretty, just about being strong. Light spilled from those windows, warm and yellow. And even from across the street, Eli could hear it. Music, low and steady, the rumble of voices, laughter, life. The kind of warmth that had nothing to do with temperature. The kind that came from being somewhere, with someone, part of something. He didn't plan to cross the street, didn't plan to get closer, but his feet moved anyway, drawn to that light like something dying crawls toward the sun. He stopped at the edge of the parking lot, Far enough away that he wasn't trespassing, close enough that he could feel it, heat escaping every time the door opened. Brief blasts of warmth that hit his face and reminded him what it felt like to not be cold. Nobody noticed him. Why would they? He was just another shadow, another ghost. And ghosts don't register when you're alive and warm and surrounded by your people. He stood there, stealing seconds, borrowing warmth that didn't belong to him, knowing this was all he'd get, knowing he'd have to move on soon, find somewhere else, somewhere colder, somewhere that might kill him. The snow was falling harder now, sticking to everything, the world turning white and hostile. Eli's jacket was good, but it wasn't this good. Not for a whole night, not for record-breaking cold. His father's jacket had kept him alive through 100 bad nights, but tonight might be the night that was one night too many. He was about to turn away, about to disappear back into the storm, when he saw her. Woman standing outside the entrance, off to the side like she was on duty, watching the parking lot, watching the street. She wore leather, a vest over a shirt that looked warm enough for October but not for this. Boots that were more about style than function. Her arms were crossed tight over her chest, not casual, not relaxed. The kind of crossed arms that were trying to hold heat inside, fighting a battle she was losing. Eli could see her breath, could see the way she shifted her weight, foot to foot, trying to generate movement, trying to stay warm through motion. Could see her jaw clench between shivers. She was cold, really cold, the kind of cold that gets dangerous if you ignore it too long. But she wasn't going inside. Too proud, maybe. Too stubborn. Or maybe she had a reason to stay out here. Prove something, to herself or to whoever was inside. She caught him staring, her eyes narrowed, defensive, like she expected trouble, expected him to want something, to ask for something, to be another problem in a day full of problems. He looked away fast, started to turn, started to leave, but his feet stopped. His father's voice, not a memory, not exactly, more like an echo in his bones, something his dad had said so many times it became part of Eli's DNA. Real strength isn't keeping yourself alive, son. It's keeping others alive when you've got nothing left to give. His father had said that the week before he died. They'd been driving past a homeless encampment. Eli had asked why they didn't just get jobs, get help. His father had pulled over, turned off the engine, looked at him with those serious eyes. Life isn't fair, he'd said. Some people start with everything. Some start with nothing. Real strength isn't what you do when you have got advantages. It's what you do when you don't. When helping someone else means sacrificing what you need, that's when character shows. That's when you find out who you really are. Eli looked down at his jacket, the jacket that had saved his father's life, the jacket that had saved his life, the jacket that was the only thing standing between him and death tonight. His hands moved to the zipper before his brain caught up. No, this was insane. This was suicide. He needed this jacket. He was going to die without this jacket. But the woman was shaking now, really shaking. He could see it even from here, could see her trying to hide it, failing, and she had people inside, had warmth waiting 15 feet away. She'd be okay. Eventually. Once she stopped being stubborn, once she went inside. But what if she didn't? What if her pride kept her out here? What if she stayed until hypothermia made decisions for her? Until her body gave out? Until it was too late? His fingers pulled the zipper down. The cold hit him instantly, like jumping into ice water, like being punched in the chest. His whole body screamed, protested, begged him to stop. But he'd already decided. Somewhere deeper than thought, somewhere his father still lived, somewhere that remembered what it meant to be his father's son. He pulled the jacket off, felt the cold wrap around him, felt a thin t-shirt underneath become immediately useless, felt winter sink its teeth into his skin. Sharp, vicious, immediate. He walked toward her, Each step deliberate, each step a choice to keep going, each step further from safety, closer to death. She saw him coming, tensed, her hand moved toward her pocket, ready for trouble, ready to defend herself against whatever this homeless kid wanted. Eli stopped a few feet away, held out the jacket, his hands already shaking, his lips already going numb, his whole body trying to generate heat that wasn't there. "Ma'am," he said. His voice came out rough, small, the voice of a kid trying to sound like his father, trying to sound brave when he was terrified. "You're going to freeze out here." She stared at him, confused, suspicious, not understanding, not processing what she was seeing. "I'm fine," she said. Automatic. The same words everyone uses when they're not fine at all. Eli took another step closer, held the jacket out further, his whole body shivering now, violent and involuntary, every cell screaming at him to stop, to take it back, to choose life. "Please," he said, and that one word carried everything, all the weight of what this cost him, all the fear of what came next, all the certainty that this was right anyway, that his father would want this, that this was what it meant to be strong. She looked at the jacket, really looked at it, saw how worn it was, how old, how it might be the only thing this kid owned. Her eyes moved to his face, saw how thin he was, how young, how he was already shaking, already dying. "Kid, you need that," she said. But her voice had changed, less defensive, more concerned, more human. "You looked colder," Eli said. Simple, true, the only explanation that mattered, the only reason he needed. Before she could argue, before she could refuse, before his courage broke and he changed his mind, before survival instinct overrode everything else, he stepped forward and draped the jacket over her shoulders. It swallowed her, too big, worn, the kind of jacket that had stories in every thread. She grabbed it instinctively, pulled it around herself. He could see her body respond, could see warmth register, could see her accept what he was offering, even as her mind tried to reject it. "Wait," she said, reaching out, her hand almost touching his arm. "You can't just—" But Eli was already backing away, already turning, already running before she could make him take it back, before he could change his mind. For the reality of what he'd done could catch up with him. He heard her call after him, heard her voice, desperate, confused, trying to stop him. But he was gone, disappearing into the snow, into the storm, into the cold that was already crawling inside his bone. The wind hit him full force now. No barrier, no protection, just a thin t-shirt and jeans in the kind of cold that kills. His body went into shock, shaking so hard his teeth chattered, his skin burning, then going numb, then burning again, the snow sticking to his hair, his clothes melting and refreezing, ice forming on fabric, on skin. What had he done? What had he just done? He walked, faster, like he could outrun the cold, like movement would generate enough heat to survive. But every step took energy he didn't have. Every breath hurt. Every second was colder than the last. He'd just given away the only thing keeping him alive, to a stranger, to someone who had warmth waiting inside, to someone who would be fine while he would die. The thought came clear and simple, not dramatic, not frightening, just factual. You couldn't survive this cold, not dressed like this, not for a whole night. The numbers didn't lie, the body had limits, and Eli had just crossed the line where survival was possible. But even as his body screamed, even as fear clawed at his throat, even as every survival instinct demanded he run back and beg for the jacket back, something else whispered underneath, his father's voice. "You did good, son. You did real good." And for just a moment, in the middle of dying, Eli felt something he hadn't felt in 11 months. Pride. He'd chosen. When he had every reason to be selfish, to choose himself, to let someone else freeze, he'd chosen kindness instead. Just like his dad had taught him, just like the man he wanted to be, just like his father would have done. Even if it killed him, maybe especially if it killed him, because some things were worth more than breathing. Some things mattered more than survival. The storm swallowed him. Snow and wind and cold that didn't care about noble choices or dead fathers or 13-year-old boys who gave away their last chance. His vision blurred, his legs weakened, but he kept walking because stopping meant giving up, and he wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. Not while he could still hear his father's voice telling him he'd done the right thing. Even if the right thing meant dying alone in a storm that nobody would remember. On a night when the whole city was warm and safe and celebrating. While Eli Brennan, 13 years old, homeless, invisible, walked into the dark and wondered if this was how it ended, if anyone would notice, if anyone would care. The cold had teeth. That was Eli's first coherent thought as he stumbled away from the iron den. Not just cold, not the abstract idea of temperature dropping, but teeth, sharp and vicious, sinking into exposed skin, biting deeper with every passing second. 8:47 p.m. The storm had arrived ahead of schedule, like it had been waiting for him to make the stupidest decision of his life before showing its real face. Snow came down in sheets now, thick and blinding, the kind that erased the world, made familiar streets foreign, made 3 feet ahead of you impossible to see. Wind howled between buildings, found every opening in his thin t-shirt, turned fabric into nothing, into a joke, into the thing that wouldn't save him. His body responded the way bodies do when survival is no longer guaranteed, shaking, violent and uncontrolled, muscles contracting, trying to generate heat that wasn't there, trying to buy time that was running out. His hands were already numb. Not the pins and needles numb, the dead numb. The kind where you look down and see fingers that belong to you but don't respond anymore. Don't feel like part of you at all. He shoved them under his armpits. Old survival trick his father taught him. Keep your core warm. Protect the vital organs. Let the extremities go if you have to. But his core was already losing the battle, already getting cold, already starting to shut down. The warehouse on Burnside, that was where he needed to go, where his stuff was, his sleeping bag, his backpack, 20 blocks away. Might as well be 20 miles when every step was harder than the wind. When his legs were already starting to feel heavy, disconnected, like they belonged to someone else. He made it 3 blocks before he had to stop, leaned against a building, catching his breath, except breathing hurt, each inhale like swallowing glass, each exhale taking warmth with it, warmth he couldn't afford to lose. Keep moving, his father's voice, or his voice, or the voice of survival that lived in everyone. Didn't matter whose voice, just mattered that he listened. He pushed off the wall, kept walking. Downtown Portland and at night during a historic blizzard looked like the end of the world. Streets empty, businesses dark, traffic lights blinking for nobody, snow accumulating so fast you could watch it happen, drifts forming against buildings, against parked cars, against anything that stood still. If he stood still too long, would snow form against him too? Would he become part of the landscape? Another shape under white. Another thing nobody noticed until spring came and the snow melted and someone found what was left. His mind was starting to wander. Not good. That was bad. That meant hypothermia was setting in. Meant his brain was getting cold. Meant he was running out of time. Jefferson Bridge. The thought cut through the fog. The old bridge had an overpass. Concrete and steel. Not warm but dry. Protected from the direct assault of wind and snow. It wasn't the warehouse. Wasn't his stuff. but it was closer, maybe 6 blocks, maybe survivable. He changed direction, east toward the river, toward the bridge, toward the only option left. Each block took forever. His pace had slowed to a crawl, each step requiring conscious thought. Lift foot, move forward, put it down, repeat. The simple mechanics of walking becoming complex, difficult, nearly impossible. He passed a car, empty, covered in snow, doors locked. He tried them anyway, pulled on handles with fingers that didn't work right. Nothing. Everything locked. Everyone safe inside somewhere warm. Everyone except him. The shaking was getting worse, so violent it made walking harder, made everything harder. His jaw chattered, teeth clicking together, the sound loud in his ears, rhythmic, like a countdown, like his body marking time, counting down to when it would stop working altogether. Memories started bleeding through, flashbacks that felt more real than the present. His father teaching him to fish. Summer day, warm sun, the river calm and green. His dad's hands over his, showing him how to cast, how to be patient, how to wait for the right moment. You can't force it, son. You wait. You watch. You trust that what you need will come if you're ready for it. The memory dissolved, replaced by another. His mother's funeral. He was 7, didn't fully understand, just knew she wasn't coming back. His father holding his hand, squeezing tight, silent, the kind of silence that said more than words. We're going to be okay, his dad had said later. Just you and me. We're going to figure this out. And they had. For 6 years, they'd figured it out. 2 people against the world. Not perfect, not easy, but together, always together. Until his father's heart gave out in the middle of an intersection. Eli had been sitting in the passenger seat. They'd been talking about something stupid. What to have for dinner, whether they should rent a movie, normal things, boring things. The last conversation they would ever have, and it was about nothing important. Then his father had made a sound, small, surprised. His hand went to his chest. The car swerved. Eli grabbed the wheel, screaming, not understanding, not knowing what was happening. They'd hit a parked car, not hard, just enough to stop. His father slumped over, not moving, not breathing. Eli had screamed for help, had called 911, had tried to remember CPR from a video he'd seen in health class, had failed, had watched his father die and been unable to stop it. The wind picked up, stronger, more vicious. Eli staggered, almost went down, caught himself against a lamppost, metal cold under his palm, so cold it burned. His vision was starting to blur, not from snow, from something inside, something failing, the edges of the world getting soft, undefined, like reality was losing resolution. The bridge appeared ahead, gray concrete rising against white sky, the overpass below, dark, uninviting, but sheltered, out of the direct wind. Eli's legs almost gave out, relief and exhaustion hitting at the same time. Almost there, just a little further, just a few more steps. He stumbled down the embankment, slipped, went down hard on his knees. Pain sharp and immediate. But pain meant nerves still worked. Pain meant not dead yet. He crawled the last few feet, under the overpass, out of the snow, out of the direct wind. The difference was immediate. Still cold, still dying, but slower, maybe. He collapsed against concrete, back against a support pillar, legs stretched out, arms wrapped around himself, shaking so hard his head bounced against stone. The overpass was empty, no other people, no other desperate souls. Either they'd found better shelter, or they knew something Eli didn't, knew this place wasn't worth it, wasn't enough. Time became strange, elastic. He couldn't tell if minutes were passing or hours, couldn't tell if he was still conscious or dreaming. The line between awake and asleep blurring. The line between alive and dead blurring too. His father appeared beside him. Not a memory, a hallucination, but so vivid, so real. Wearing his old flannel shirt, smiling the way he used to smile. Proud, warm, solid. You did good back there, son. That woman. You probably saved her life. Eli wanted to respond, wanted to say something, but his jaw wouldn't work right. Words stuck in his throat, frozen there, real strength. That's what that was, the kind of strength that matters. Not keeping yourself alive, keeping others alive when you've got nothing left. I'm going to die, Dad. The words wouldn't come out loud, but maybe his father could hear them anyway. I'm going to die alone under a bridge, and nobody will know. Nobody will care. Maybe. His father's smile never wavered. But you'll die like a man, like someone who mattered. That counts for something. That counts for everything, does it? Does it count if I'm just gone? If the world keeps spinning like I was never here? You were here, you made a choice, you helped someone. That's more than most people do in a lifetime. You did it when you were 13 and had nothing. That's everything, son. That's what I tried to teach you. That's what makes you my boy. The hallucination was fading, or Eli was fading, hard to tell which. His father's face getting dimmer, more transparent, like he was made of smoke, like he was already gone. Don't leave, please don't leave me here alone. But his father was gone, just concrete in darkness and cold. His body's last desperate attempt to find comfort, to find meaning. Manufacturing his father's presence because the alternative was dying alone. Being alone in the last moments. Having no one. And he was alone. Had been alone for 11 months. Would die alone. Under a bridge. In a storm. Another homeless kid who became a statistic. Another number. Another problem the system failed to solve. His eyelids were heavy. So heavy, the shaking had slowed. Not because he was warmer, because his body was running out of fuel, out of energy, out of the ability to fight. Sleep looked so appealing. Just close your eyes, rest, let it happen. Stop fighting. Fighting was exhausting. Fighting hurt. And what was he fighting for anyway? What was left? No, the word came from somewhere deep, somewhere stubborn, somewhere that sounded like his father but was actually him. Actually Eli refusing to give up, refusing to make it easy. Not yet, not like this, not without trying everything, not without fighting until the very end. He tried to stand, failed. His legs wouldn't support him. Too weak, too cold, too far gone. He tried again, pushed against the pillar, used his arms, his back, every muscle that still worked, got one foot under him, then the other, pushed up, standing, barely, swaying like a tree about to fall, but vertical, but still fighting. He took a step, staggered, caught himself, took another. Keep moving, and you're still alive. Stop moving and you're dead. Simple as that. But where? Where was he moving to? The bridge, the street, back into the storm. Looking for what? Help that didn't exist. Warmth that wasn't there. Hope that had run out. He walked anyway, because walking was all he had left. Each step harder than the last. Each step taking more than he had to give. But he moved, out from under the overpass, back into the snow, into the wind that hit him like a fist. The world tilted, sideways, then back, his balance failing, his inner ear lying, telling him down was up. Up was sideways, nothing making sense. He fell, sideways, into a snowdrift behind a commercial dumpster, felt the cold wetness, tried to push back up. Arms wouldn't work, legs wouldn't work, body done, finished. out of reserves, out of time. This was it. This was where it ended. Face down in snow, behind a dumpster near Jefferson and 3rd, alone, cold, forgotten. At least he'd tried. At least he'd chosen something, given something, meant something, even if it was just for 30 seconds, even if it was just to one stranger who'd forget him by tomorrow. He'd mattered. For a moment, that had to count for something. The snow kept falling, the wind kept blowing, the cold kept sinking deeper, and Eli stopped fighting. Let the cold take him. Let the snow cover him. Let everything fade to white in silence and nothing. Inside, the Iron Den time had stopped moving forward, frozen in the moment when Vera Callahan walked through the door wearing a jacket that wasn't hers. Couldn't be hers. Not that worn, not that oversized, not torn at the sleeve with stitching that looked military. Old school, the kind someone learned in basic training 30 years ago. 30 bikers had turned as one. Instinct sharp from years of watching doors. Years of knowing trouble came through doors. Came fast. Came violent. Came when you weren't ready. But there was no trouble. Just Vera. Snow in her hair. Breathing hard. Face pale. Eyes wide. Wearing someone else's story on her shoulders. Flint Creed was on his feet before conscious thought caught up. 58 years old, 20 years running the Iron Brotherhood. The kind of man who moved through the world like he expected resistance and was ready for it. The kind who'd seen too much, lost too much, survived too much. He crossed the room in 4 strides, stopped in front of Vera, his eyes taking in details. The jacket, the way she was gripping it like a lifeline, the look on her face, something between shock and breaking, something he had never seen on Vera before. And Vera didn't break. Vera was rock. Vera was steel. "Where'd you get that?" he said. Not a question, a demand. Needing to understand, needing the story to make sense because right now nothing made sense. Vera looked up, met his eyes, hers were wet, threatening to spill over. Vera who'd ridden through storms and bar fights and the death of her husband. Vera who never showed weakness. Was showing it now. "A kid gave it to me," she said. Each word separate, distinct, like she was still trying to believe it herself. The room had gone completely silent. Music dead. Conversation stopped. No sound except the heater in the corner and 30 men breathing, waiting, listening. "A kid," Flint repeated, his voice flat, processing, not understanding yet, not quite grasping what she was saying. Vera nodded, swallowed hard, her hands tightened on the jacket's fabric, knuckles white, holding on like if she let go it would all disappear, like it would turn out to be a dream. "He just walked up, out of nowhere, said I was going to freeze." Her voice cracked. She pushed through it. "Before I could say anything, before I could stop him. He took this off and put it on me." She looked down at the jacket, ran her fingers over the worn canvas, the crooked stitching on the sleeve patch, the collar that smelled like old spice and something else, something like loss, like memory. He was shaking, could barely stand, but he wouldn't take it back, just said I looked colder and walked away. The words landed in the silence like stones in still water, ripples spreading, each man processing, each man understanding at different speeds, but all arriving at the same impossible conclusion. A kid had given his coat away in this storm, in record cold, in conditions that were killing people in their homes, in their cars, in places that should have been safe. Someone near the back let out a breath, low and rough, like he'd been punched, like the air had been knocked out of him. Garrett stood up, 26, youngest member, still learning what the Brotherhood meant, what it stood for, his face pale, voice tight. Where is he now? The question everyone was thinking, the question that mattered. Because if a kid gave away his coat in this storm, in temperatures that were already deadly, in conditions that were getting worse by the minute, then that kid was in trouble. Real trouble. The kind you measured in minutes, not hours. Vera's eyes moved to the door, like she could still see him out there, walking away, disappearing into white, becoming nothing, becoming gone. I tried to stop him, she said, called after him, but he ran, just took off into the storm. I tried to follow, but he was gone, just gone. Her voice broke completely on that last word. This woman who'd buried her husband, who'd rebuilt her life, who'd learned to be strong alone, was breaking now for a kid she didn't know, a kid who'd saved her life, a kid who was dying because of it. How long ago, Flint said, his voice sharper now, focused, the tone that meant decisions were being made, actions were coming, the voice of a leader who'd led men through worse, who knew how to turn panic into purpose. 4 minutes, maybe 5. I tried to see which way he went, but the snow, I couldn't, I don't know. 5 minutes, 5 minutes in this cold, in this storm, with no coat, just a t-shirt. 5 minutes was, it was. Check the jacket, Garrett said, moving closer. Maybe there's ID, something. Vera's hands were shaking as she checked the pockets, pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. Notebook paper, kids' handwriting, careful letters, the kind kids use when they're trying to make their parents proud. This jacket kept me alive for 334 days. If you found it, I hope it keeps you alive too. EB. Vera read it out loud, her voice barely holding, and when she finished, when those words settled over the room, something shifted, something fundamental, something that turned 30 individual men into one single purpose. Flint reached for the jacket. Vera handed it over. He looked at the note, at the handwriting, and something inside him cracked because he'd seen that handwriting before, in a hospital room 5 years ago, in cards that said, "Get well soon, Dad," in a letter that said, "I love you," that he'd gotten after his son was already dead. Wyatt's handwriting, or close enough, the same careful loops, the same proud capitals, the same boy trying to make his father proud. "We move," Flint said, his voice steel, his face granite, but his hands shook slightly as he handed the jacket back to Vera. "Everyone, now." The room exploded into motion, not chaos, purpose. 30 men who'd spent years training together, working together, responding to crisis together, moving as one unit with one goal. Chairs scraped back, boots hit floor, leather jackets grabbed, gloves pulled on, keys snatched from tables. The practiced efficiency of people who knew what needed to happen and didn't waste time discussing it. Tommy grabbed his radio, started coordinating. 6 teams, 2 per bike, grid pattern. Start here and spiral out. Kids on foot, small, probably confused. Can't have gone far. "What are we looking for?" someone called out. Boy, 13, dark hair, thin, wearing nothing but a t-shirt. The weight of those last words settled over everyone. T-shirt. In this. In record cold. In a blizzard. In conditions that were killing people in their cars. In their homes. In places that should have been safe. A kid in a t-shirt wouldn't last 30 minutes. Probably wouldn't last 20. They had to move. Now. Flint grabbed his heaviest jacket, looked at Vera. She was already pulling the kid's jacket off, trying to give it back, like it was evidence, like it mattered, like they could hand it back to him when they found him. "Keep it," Flint said, his voice softening for just a second, just for her. "We'll give it back to him when we find him." When, not if, because if wasn't acceptable. If meant a kid died while they sat in warmth. If meant they failed, and the Iron Brotherhood didn't fail. Not at things that mattered, not at this. The door flew open. Snow and wind blasted in. Every man walked into it without hesitation. Without question, without a single complaint about the cold or the danger or the impossibility, because there was a kid out there, a kid who'd given everything, a kid who deserved to be saved. 30 engines roared to life in near-perfect synchronization. The sound cut through the storm, through the night, like thunder, like war, like 30 men who'd just been given a mission and would complete it or die trying. They split into teams, peeled off in different directions. Grid pattern, professional, thorough, the way Flint had taught them, the way you searched when failure wasn't an option, when a life hung in the balance, when every second counted. Flint took point, Garrett behind him, Marcus and Tommy following, headlights cutting through snow, visibility maybe 20 feet, maybe less, but enough. Had to be enough. They rode slow, deliberate, eyes scanning every shadow, every doorway, every shape that might be a person, might be a kid, might be the reason they were out here, might be the difference between life and death. Flint's hands were steady on the handlebars, his face set, jaw tight, eyes focused. But inside something was screaming, something that remembered another kid, another time, another failure he couldn't undo, could never undo. The radio crackled. Team 2, nothing on Morrison, moving to third. Team 4, check the shelters. Nobody seen him. Team 6, empty on Burnside. Where else would he go? Where would a homeless kid go in a storm? When every door was closed, when every shelter was full, when the whole city had said no, when dying alone was the only option left. The river. Flint's gut twisted. Jefferson Bridge. The old overpass. It was where people went when they had nowhere else, when they'd given up, when they just wanted to be out of the wind. He keyed his mic. All teams, converge on Jefferson Bridge, east side, the overpass. Copy that. On our way. 2 minutes out. Flint gunned the engine, Garrett and the others following, racing through snow that should have made racing impossible, taking corners too fast, not caring. Getting there was all that mattered. Finding him was all that mattered. They reached the bridge in 90 seconds. 6 bikes, then 10, then all 30, engines cutting out, men dismounting, moving fast but careful. Snow deep here. Treacherous, easy to fall. But falling didn't matter. Finding him mattered. Spread out, check under the overpass, check the embankment, check everywhere. They moved, flashlights cutting through darkness, through snow, calling out, looking, searching. Here, Marcus called out. Behind the dumpster. I got something. Flint's heart stopped, then started again. Too fast, too hard. He ran, boots slipping on snow, catching himself, not caring, getting there, getting to Marcus, getting to a shape, small, curled, covered in snow, arms tucked in, body trying to protect itself, trying to hold on to warmth that was already gone. Flint dropped to his knees, reached out, touched the shape, felt fabric, felt cold, felt, please, please, no, please, not too late. He rolled the body over, cleared snow from the face, and there was a boy, face pale, lips blue, eyes closed, snow in his hair, in his eyelashes, frost forming on skin, like he was already becoming part of winter, already becoming ice. But there, faint, so faint, the smallest movement, chest rising, falling, rising. He's alive, Flint said, voice rough, thick, relief and terror mixing. He's alive, barely, but alive. Garrett was already stripping off his jacket, Tommy doing the same. Marcus had blankets from his saddlebag. Emergency gear, the kind you hoped you'd never need. They wrapped the boy, layer after layer, trying to trap whatever warmth was left, trying to stop the bleeding of heat into cold air, trying to build a cocoon, a shield, something that would keep death away for just a few more minutes. Flint pulled the boy against his chest, felt how cold he was, how wet, how close to gone. This was bad. This was emergency room bad. This was might not make it bad. The boy's eyes fluttered, not opening, just movement, like he was trying to surface, trying to fight back from wherever hypothermia had taken him. His lips moved, barely, sound coming out, too quiet to hear over the wind. Flint leaned closer, ear near the boy's mouth, straining to hear, to understand. "The lady," the boy whispered, each word taking everything he had left, taking more than he had to give. Is she okay?" Flint's chest tightened. This boy was dying, hypothermic, barely conscious, and he was asking about Vera, about the woman he'd saved, making sure his sacrifice hadn't been wasted, making sure she lived, even if he didn't. "She's alive because of you, Cam," Flint said, his voice rough, thick with something he couldn't name. "Now let us return the favor." The boy's eyes opened, just slits, unfocused, but searching, trying to see, trying to understand. 30 men, 30 bikes, all here, all looking for him, all refusing to let him die. Don't, don't take me back," the boy said, panic creeping into his voice. Weak but real, fear cutting through hypothermia. "Please, not foster care, please." The words hit Flint like bullets. This boy, dying, scared, not of death, of the system, of going back to whatever hell he'd escaped from. "Nobody's taking you anywhere you don't want to go," Flint said, and meant it, felt it in his bones. This boy had earned choices, had earned safety, had earned people who gave a damn. "You're safe, you're with us now, we got you." The boy's body went slack, not dead, just exhausted, surrendering, trusting, or too far gone to fight anymore. "We need to move," Vera said. She'd ridden on the back of Marcus's bike, refused to stay behind, had to see, had to know. "My medic training, it's been 20 years, but we need to warm him. Gradually. Hospital's too far, den's closer. We go there. Now." Nobody argued. Flint stood, holding the boy, feeling how light he was, how small, how this was a child, just a child, who'd shown more courage than men twice his age, 3 times his size. Garrett moved up beside him. "I'll ride behind. Keep him steady. You focus on the road." Flint nodded, mounted his bike one-handed, felt Garrett settle behind him, felt the boy between them, protected, held, safe, finally safe. The ride back was the longest 10 minutes of Flint's life. Every second counted. Every second the boy's body was shutting down. Every second hypothermia was claiming more ground. More systems, more chances. But he rode, fast but controlled, taking risks but calculated ones, because crashing would kill the boy as surely as the cold. Getting him there alive mattered. Getting him there in time mattered. The den appeared ahead, lights blazing, door open, warmth spilling out, promise of safety, promise of life. They pulled up. Garrett helped Flint dismount. Together they carried the boy inside, into warmth, into light, into the place where maybe, just maybe, they could save him. Vera was already moving, pushing tables aside, clearing space near the heater, laying out blankets, her training taking over, her hands steady even as her face showed fear, showed determination, showed she would not let this boy die, not after what he'd done, not after he'd saved her. They laid him down, gentle, careful, like handling glass, like one wrong move would break him, which it might, which it could. And then the work began. The fight to bring him back from the edge, the battle against cold and time and death itself. 30 men watching, waiting, praying to gods they weren't sure they believed in, praying that they'd gotten there in time, that this boy who'd given everything would get to keep living, would get to see another day, would get to know he mattered, that people cared, that he wasn't alone anymore, that his sacrifice hadn't been in vain, that both he and Vera would live because of choices made, because of courage shown, because sometimes the good guys won. They just had to make it through the next few hours, had to keep him alive, had to refuse to let death take him. And the Iron Brotherhood, 30 men who'd seen too much death, too much loss, were damn well going to make sure death didn't win tonight. Not on their watch. Not this kid. Not after what he'd done. They would save him, or die trying. The Iron Den became a field hospital, became a place where training met desperation, where 20-year-old skills had to be enough, had to work, had to save a life that was slipping away with every passing second. Vera's hands moved with purpose, checking vitals, assessing damage, her medic training flooding back, the procedures, the protocols, the fight to keep people alive when everything said they should be dead. Core temperature too low, she said, voice clinical, professional, but her hands shook slightly. We warm him gradually. Too fast shocks the system, stops the heart. Go slow, controlled, layer warmth, external first, then internal. Marcus brought warm water, not hot, warm. Towels soaked and wrung out. Vera placed them on the boy's chest, his neck, where major blood vessels ran close to the surface, where heat could reach the core. Tommy had blankets, heated in the dryer for 10 minutes, wrapped around the boy, creating insulation, creating a barrier between his body and the cold that wanted to claim him. Garrett monitored breathing, hand on the boy's chest, counting, making sure lungs still worked, still pulled air, still fought. Flint stood back, watching, unable to help beyond what he'd already done, unable to do anything but watch and wait and hope. His hands clenched at his sides, jaw tight, eyes never leaving the boy's face. So pale, so young, so close to gone. The first 30 minutes were critical. Vera worked steadily, changing warm towels, checking pulse, watching for signs, for improvement, for failure. The boy's lips stayed blue, his breathing stayed shallow, his body stayed limp. But he was alive, still alive. That had to count for something. That had to be enough to build on. Come on, kid, Marcus whispered. Quiet, almost a prayer. Fight. You fought this long. Don't give up now. 45 minutes. The boy's breathing deepened slightly. Steadied. Not normal, not good, but better. Maybe better. Vera checked his pulse, counted beats, nodded. Stronger, still weak, but stronger. Small victory, tiny improvement. But in this moment, in this fight, small victories were everything. An hour, color started coming back. Slow, so slow you had to watch for it. But gray became pale. Blue lips faded toward purple. Then pink. Not healthy pink, but alive pink. Fighting pink. He's stabilizing, Vera said. Not quite relief, not quite confidence, but acknowledgement. First crisis passed. Still more to come. Still more ways this could go wrong. But for now, for this moment, he was stable. Flint exhaled. Didn't realize he'd been holding his breath. Didn't realize how tense he'd been until his shoulders dropped. Just slightly, just enough. Good work, he said to Vera. Simple, direct. The highest compliment he knew how to give, because she'd done it. Against odds, against time, against death itself. She'd brought him back. The room stayed quiet. 30 men watching, none leaving. All staying, bearing witness, being present, because this mattered. This boy mattered. What he'd done mattered. An hour and a half, The boy's eyes moved behind closed lids, REM sleep, or dreams, or his mind processing, fighting, healing. Then his eyes opened, slow, confused, pupils dilating in the light, trying to focus, trying to understand where he was, what had happened, why he wasn't dead. He saw the ceiling first. Wood beams, exposed, old, then the walls, then the people, 30 faces looking down at him. Men he didn't know, rough, bearded, wearing leather, looking like every warning he'd ever gotten about strangers, about danger, about people who hurt kids. Panic hit his system like electricity, fight or flight, and he chose flight. He tried to sit up, failed. Too weak, tried again, got halfway. Vera's hand on his shoulder, gentle but firm. Easy, she said. You're safe. You're okay. But safe didn't register. Okay didn't register. All he saw were strangers, adults, people who had power over him, people who could hurt him, could send him back, could make decisions about his life without asking, without caring what he wanted. Where am I? He managed, his voice rough, damaged, like something had scraped his throat raw, like screaming, like dying. Our clubhouse, Flint said. Stepped closer, but not too close. Did not want to crowd. Didn't want to threaten. Kept his voice calm, steady. The voice you use with wounded animals, with scared children. You were dying. We brought you here, warmed you up, kept you alive. The boy's eyes moved to Flint, studied him, looking for threat, looking for Lysium, looking for the trap. Because there was always a trap. Adults always wanted something, always had an angle, always. The woman, the boy said, memory clicking, pieces falling into place. I gave her, is she? She's here, Vera said, moved into his line of sight, still wearing his jacket, had put it back on after they'd gotten him inside, like she was keeping it warm, keeping it safe, until she could give it back. I'm here, because of you. The boy stared at her, at the jacket, recognition dawning, then confusion, then something like fear. Why did you come looking? Flint exchanged glances with Vera. The question surprised him. Shouldn't have, but did. Like the boy genuinely couldn't understand why someone would care, why someone would try to save him. Like he'd already decided he wasn't worth saving, wasn't worth the effort, wasn't worth anything. You gave her your coat, Flint said. Your only coat, in a blizzard. That's not something you ignore. That's not something you forget. That's everything. The boy looked away, down at his hands, at the blankets covering him, at anything but the faces surrounding him, at anything but the care, the concern, the thing he didn't know how to accept. You should have let me go, he said. Quiet, not angry, just factual, like stating a truth everyone knew. I don't. I don't have anywhere. Anyone. You wasted your time. Better spent on someone who matters. The words hit harder than a punch. The emptiness in them, the resignation, the absolute belief that his life had no value, that saving him was a waste, that he was a waste. Vera's face crumpled, just for a second. Then she controlled it, pushed it down, became professional again. But that second was enough. That second showed the impact, showed how those words landed, how they hurt. You're not a waste of time, Vera said, her voice tight, controlled, fighting something. What you did tonight, that took courage, real courage. You saved my life. Maybe you don't understand that yet, but you did. You saved me. You would have been fine, the boy said, still not looking at her, still not accepting. You could have gone inside. You had people, warmth. You would have been fine. Maybe, but I didn't. I was being stubborn, stupid. And you saw that, saw someone who needed help. And you helped, even though it cost you everything, even though it meant dying. You chose to save me anyway." The boy didn't respond, just laid there, small and fragile and so clearly broken in ways that had nothing to do with hypothermia. Broken in the ways trauma breaks people, the ways loss breaks people, the ways the system breaks people and then abandons them to pick up pieces alone. Flint recognized that look, had seen it before, in mirrors after he lost Wyatt, in the faces of men who'd been to war, who'd lost things they couldn't get back, who'd learned that the world was cruel and indifferent and keeping yourself alive was the only goal that mattered. Except this boy had given that up, had chosen someone else over himself, had shown more courage than most men twice his size, 3 times his age, had proven he understood something most people never learned. That strength wasn't about surviving. It was about what you were willing to sacrifice so others could survive. "You hungry?" Flint asked, changing the subject, giving the kid space to breathe, to adjust, to process. The boy's stomach answered before he did. A growl loud enough that everyone heard it, loud enough that even he couldn't pretend otherwise, couldn't hide it, couldn't deny need. "I'll take that as a yes," Flint said, looked at Marcus. "Get him some soup, chicken broth, something warm, easy to digest. Nothing heavy. His system needs to adjust." Marcus nodded, headed toward the kitchen. The boy watched him go, then looked back at Flint, calculation in his eyes, trying to figure this out, trying to understand the angle, the cost, the price he'd pay later. "I can't pay you," he said. Direct, honest. The honesty of a kid who'd learned everything had a price, who'd learned trust was currency and he was bankrupt. "For the food, for any of this, I don't have money, don't have anything." "Nobody asked you to." "Then what do you want?" The question was sharp, defensive, the question of someone who'd been hurt, who'd learned to expect hurt, who'd learned that kindness was a mask adults wore until they got what they wanted. "Right now," Flint said, his voice softening, just slightly, just enough. "I want you to eat, get your strength back, get warm, then we'll talk about what comes next, but only if you want to, only if you choose to. Nobody here is going to force you to do anything you don't want to do." The boy didn't look convinced, but he nodded, small, careful. Like even nodding took energy he wasn't sure he had. Like everything took energy. Like existing itself was exhausting. Marcus returned with soup, chicken broth, simple, hot, steam rising, smelling like home, like safety, like the thing you eat when you're sick and someone cares. He handed it to the boy, who took it with shaking hands, who stared at it like he didn't quite believe it was real, like it might disappear if he blinked. Like good things didn't happen to him, so this must be a trick, must be a test, must be something else. "It's not poison," Marcus said, small smile, trying to lighten the moment, trying to show this was okay, this was real. "I'm a terrible cook, but I haven't killed anyone yet. At least not with my cooking." The boy raised the bowl, sipped, careful. The heat hit his throat, his stomach, spread through him. He closed his eyes for just a second, like this was the best thing he had ever tasted, like warmth from inside was a miracle, like he'd forgotten what food felt like when it wasn't scavenged, wasn't stolen, wasn't survival. He drank slowly, carefully, making it last, savoring each sip, or maybe just being cautious, making sure it was raw, making sure it wasn't a trick. He finished the bowl. Marcus took it, brought another. The boy drank that too, faster now, body accepting, recognizing fuel, recognizing care. Color came back to his face, real color, living color. His hands stopped shaking quite so badly. His breathing evened out. He looked less like something dying, more like something living. "Better?" Vera asked, gentle, checking, making sure. The boy nodded, still cautious, still guarded, but slightly less ready to run, slightly less certain this was a trap, slightly more willing to consider that maybe. Maybe this was real. Maybe these people actually cared. Maybe he'd found something he thought didn't exist anymore. Maybe he'd found help. The night wore on. The storm outside didn't stop. Wind howled. Snow piled up. But inside the iron den it was warm, safe, a bubble of heat and light in a hostile world. The kind of place that felt separate from reality. The kind of place where different rules applied, where kindness existed, where people cared. The bikers gave the boys space, went back to their tables, their conversations, but kept watch, always kept watch, making sure he was okay, making sure he didn't need anything, making sure he knew he wasn't alone, that they were there, that they weren't leaving. Around midnight, Flint approached again, pulled up a chair, sat down beside where the boy was lying, still wrapped in blankets, still looking like he might bolt at any second, still not quite trusting, not quite believing. "You got a name, kid." The boy hesitated. Names were dangerous. Names could be traced. Names meant records, systems, people finding you, people dragging you back to places you ran from, places that hurt, places that broke you. But these men had saved his life, had earned something, maybe not everything, but something. Trust was built in pieces, small pieces. This could be the first one. "Eli," he said, voice quiet, almost lost in the ambient sound. "Eli Brennan." Flint nodded, committed it to memory, filed it away. A name, a person, not just kid, not just homeless, not just problem. A human being with a name, with a story, with value. "I'm Flint, that's Vera. The guy who brought you soup is Marcus. The others. You'll learn them in time, if you stay, if you want to." "I'm not staying," Eli said, quick, defensive, wall slamming back up. Protection, defense. "Soon as the storm's over, soon as I can leave, I'm gone. You did your good deed. You can feel better about yourselves. But I'm gone." Flint didn't react, didn't argue, didn't push, just accepted. Let it stand. Let Eli have his defenses, his walls, his belief that he controlled this, that he had choices, that he wasn't trapped. "Fair enough," Flint said, voice even, neutral. "But you should know something. The door is not locked. Never has been. Never will be. You want to leave right now, you can. Nobody here is keeping you prisoner. Nobody here is going to force you to stay." Eli looked at him, searching for the lie, the catch, the thing that made it a trap. But Flint's face was steady, honest, meaning what he said, actually meaning it. "Why would you tell me that?" "Because you need to know you have a choice, that staying isn't about being trapped, about being forced, about having no other option. It's about choosing, and if you're going to be here, even for one night, even for 1 hour, I want you to be here because you decided, because you wanted to, not because you thought you had no other choice." Eli processed that, slowly, testing it for truth, for deception, for the angle, but there didn't seem to be one. This man, this Flint, seemed to actually mean what he said, seemed to actually believe that choice mattered, that Eli's choice mattered. "The door's really unlocked. Try it if you want. Go ahead. Walk over there. Open it. Walk out. Nobody will stop you. Nobody will chase you. Nobody will call the cops. You're free. You've always been free. That's not something we take from people here. That's something we protect." Eli stood up, slow, unsteady, testing his legs, testing whether they'd hold, whether his body would cooperate, whether this was real or another trick. He walked to the door, each step measured, each step testing, each step expecting someone to stop him, to grab him, and to say, "Wait, you can't." But nobody did. Nobody moved. Nobody said anything. Just 30 men watching, waiting, letting him choose. He reached the door, hand on the handle, cold metal under his palm. He could open it, walk out, back into the storm, back into freedom, back into being alone, back into the streets that didn't care if he lived or died, back into surviving, into fighting, into being alone. The wind screamed on the other side, snow visible through the window, darkness and cold and certain death waiting, patient, ready, willing to claim him if he chose to go back out there. He stood there, hand on the handle, not opening it, not moving, not deciding. Behind him, 30 men watched, silent, waiting, not judging, not pressuring, just waiting to see what he'd choose, what he'd decide, what mattered more, freedom or safety, independence or help, pride or survival. Eli looked at the storm, at the darkness, at the cold that had almost killed him. That would kill him if he went back out there. That was still waiting, still hungry, still ready. Then he looked back at the room, at the warmth, the light, the faces that had come looking for him, that had saved him, that were asking for nothing in return except what? What did they want? Why did they care? Why did any of this matter to them? His hand dropped from the handle. He turned around, walked back, slow, each step a choice, each step deciding his own fate, each step trusting just a little, just enough. He sat down, pulled the blanket back around himself, met Flint's eyes, saw something there. Approval, maybe. Understanding, definitely. Respect. That was new. Nobody had looked at him with respect in forever. Since his father died, since he became invisible, since he stopped mattering. I don't know how to trust people, Eli said. Honest, raw, the rawest truth he had. Everyone who was supposed to take care of me. They either died or they hurt me. I don't know how to believe this is different. I don't know how to believe you won't hurt me too, or leave, or turn out to be just like everyone else. The words hung there, heavy, painful, true, the kind of truth that hurt to speak, that hurt to hear, that hurt to know was real, was lived, was the experience of a 13-year-old boy who should have been worried about homework, about friends, about normal kid things, not survival, not whether the next adult would hurt him, not whether he'd see tomorrow. That's fair, Flint said, voice soft, gentle. The voice you use for wounded things. Trust is earned, not given, not demanded, earned. We understand that. We're not asking you to trust us, not yet, not until we've proven we're worth trusting. We're just asking you to stay, for tonight, for as long as the storm lasts, for as long as you need. And then, when you're ready, when you feel safe, we'll talk about what comes next, but only if you want to, only if you choose to. And if I choose to leave, then you leave, no questions, no judgment, no trying to stop you. The door stays unlocked. Always. That's a promise. That's something you can count on. Eli sat there, wrestling with something, fear, hope, the terrifying possibility that maybe this could be real, that maybe he didn't have to be alone anymore, that maybe family wasn't just about blood, wasn't just about biological connection. Maybe family was about people who showed up, who came looking, who refused to let you die alone in a storm. Maybe family was choosing and being chosen in return. Okay, he said finally, so quiet it was almost lost, almost didn't make it across the space between them. I'll stay for tonight, just tonight, and then we'll see. Flint nodded, didn't smile, didn't celebrate, didn't make a big deal out of it, just accepted, gave Eli the space to make the choice without pressure, without expectations, without making it bigger than it needed to be. Good enough, Flint said. Simple, direct. Tonight's good enough. Tomorrow can wait. And for the first time in 11 months, for the first time since his father died, Eli felt something that might have been hope. Small, fragile, easy to break. But there, boy, present, real. Hope that maybe he'd found something, someone, a place that might become home, if he let it, if he chose it, if he was brave enough to try. They set him up in a room upstairs, small, clean, a bed with actual sheets, a pillow that wasn't garbage, a door that closed, that lock from the inside, privacy, safety, control. Things Eli hadn't had in almost a year, things he'd forgotten existed. He laid down, fully clothed, jacket within reach, backpack by the door, ready to run if he needed to. If this turned out to be a trap, if midnight brought different faces, different intentions, different truth. But midnight came and went, and nobody came. Nobody tried the door. Nobody did anything except let him sleep, let him rest, let him be safe for the first time in forever. Morning arrived gray and cold. The storm had passed, left behind 3 feet of snow, a city paralyzed, roads impassable, everything shut down, the world frozen, locked in place, unable to move forward, unable to do anything except wait for the thaw. Eli woke slowly, confused, where he was, why he wasn't cold, why he didn't hurt. Then memory caught up. The iron den, the bikers, the rescue, the choice to stay. He sat up, looked around the room, saw his jacket hanging on a hook, cleaned, dried, waiting for him. His father's jacket, the one he'd given away, the one that had saved him, still here, still his. He stood, went to it, touched the fabric, felt the memories, felt his father's presence. Still there, still with him, still guiding him, even from wherever people went when they died. I did what you would have done, Dad. I chose someone else. I chose to help, even when it cost everything. That was the right choice, wasn't it? Tell me that was the right choice. The jacket didn't answer, but Eli felt it anyway. The approval, the pride, the knowledge that, yes, that was the right choice. That was the only choice. That was what it meant to be his father's son. He put the jacket on, felt its weight settle on his shoulders, familiar, comforting, like his father's hand one more time, like protection, like home. Downstairs, voices drifted up, quiet morning sounds, coffee brewing, someone cooking, the sounds of people living, existing together, being family, whatever that meant, however that worked. Eli walked down, careful, quiet, not sure what he'd find, not sure if last night had been real, if morning would be different, if they'd change their minds, decided he wasn't worth it, wasn't worth the trouble. The main room looked different in daylight, smaller somehow, less threatening, just a room with tables, chairs, a bar, pictures on the walls, motorcycles, men in leather, memories captured and displayed, lives lived, choices made, people who mattered. Vera was at the stove, cooking eggs. She looked up when he entered, smiled, small but genuine, real, not forced, not fake, not the smile adults use when they're pretending to care. The real smile, the one that meant she actually loved him, actually cared. Morning, she said, voice warm, easy, like this was normal, like homeless kids eating breakfast in clubhouses was just another Tuesday. You sleep okay? Eli nodded, didn't trust his voice yet, didn't know what to say, how to be, what was expected, what was allowed. Eggs, toast, hot chocolate. I'm 13, Eli said. Automatic, the response he always gave when people assumed. I know. That's why I said hot chocolate. You want coffee, you've got to be at least 14. House rules. Was that a joke? Eli couldn't tell, couldn't read this woman, couldn't figure out if she was serious, if this place actually had rules, if there was structure, order, things you could count on. He sat at the counter, watched her work, efficient, practiced, someone who'd done this 1,000 times, made breakfast for people, taken care of them, fed them, the small acts of care that added up to family, to home, to the thing Eli didn't have anymore. She plated food, set it in front of him, eggs scrambled, toast buttered, hot chocolate in a mug that said Iron Brotherhood on the side, steam rising, real, present, for him. Eli stared at it, then looked up at her, suspicion, confusion, the question he couldn't voice. Why? Why are you doing this? What do you want? What's the cost? What do I have to do in return? Why are you being nice to me? Vera paused, spatula in hand, considering the question, how to answer honestly without overwhelming, without scaring him away, without making this bigger than it needed to be. You saved my life, she said finally, simple, direct, when you had every reason to save yourself, every reason to be selfish, to choose you, you chose me instead. That means something. To me, to everyone here, that means everything. I just gave you a jacket. You gave me everything you had, everything that kept you alive, everything that mattered. There's a difference, a big difference. And that difference, that's what we're honoring. That's what we're respecting. That's why you get eggs and hot chocolate and a place to stay, because you earned it, because you proved something, because you matter. Eli looked down, started eating. The food was good, really good. Or maybe he was just so hungry anything would taste good. Or maybe it was both. Maybe food tasted better when someone made it for you, when someone cared whether you ate, when someone wanted you to be okay. Flint peered, poured himself coffee, sat down across from Eli, didn't say anything, just sat, comfortable in the silence, letting Eli eat, letting him adjust, letting him be without pressure, without demands, without expectations beyond existing, beyond being here, beyond being alive. After a while, Eli spoke, the words coming before he could stop them, before he could think better of it, before fear could silence him. My dad died 11 months ago. The words dropped into the silence, heavy, final, the thing he never talked about, the thing he kept locked inside because talking about it made it real, made it permanent, made it hurt more than it already did. Flint didn't react, didn't interrupt, didn't try to fix it, just listened, present, attentive, the way you listen when someone's story matters, when their pain matters, when they matter. Heart attack, Eli continued, voice flat, emotionless, the way you tell stories that hurt too much to feel. I was in the car with him. We were just talking about dinner, about nothing important. And then he made this sound, small, surprised, and his hand went to his chest, and the car swerved, and I tried. I tried to, but I couldn't. I couldn't save him. Eli's hand went to his chest, unconscious, mirroring his father, feeling phantom pain, phantom loss, the kind that never really goes away, just gets easier to carry, just becomes part of you, part of who you are, part of what you've survived. Foster care tried to place me. 3 different homes. The first 2 weren't. They weren't terrible. Just not home. Just not my dad. Just not what I needed. But the third one. Eli's hand moved to his arm, rubbing a spot, a scar probably, a reminder, a mark left by someone who should have protected him, should have cared for him, should have been safe. The man running it, he wasn't. He wasn't good. He hurt me. And when I tried to tell someone, they didn't. They didn't believe me, said I was acting out, said I was difficult, said I was the problem. So I ran 9 months ago. Figured being on the streets was better than staying somewhere that hurt. The words hung there, the ugly truth, the thing that shouldn't happen but does, the thing the system doesn't want to admit, that sometimes foster care isn't safe. Sometimes the people supposed to help are the ones who hurt. Sometimes kids run not because they're bad, but because staying is worse. Flint listened, didn't interrupt, didn't try to fix it, didn't say it wasn't true, didn't defend the system, just listened, bore witness, honored the story by hearing it, by believing it, by accepting it as truth. Your dad, Flint said when Eli was done, voice careful, gentle. What did he do before? Military, 12 years. He didn't talk about it much. Didn't like to remember, but sometimes he'd tell me things about protecting people, about how that was the only thing that mattered, that everything else was just noise, but protecting people, helping people when they needed it. That was what made you human. That was what mattered. He taught you well. Eli looked up, met Flint's eyes, saw something there. Understanding, recognition. The look of someone who knew, who'd been there, who got it, who'd heard the same lessons, learned the same truths, made the same choices. I had a son, Flint said. Quiet. This wasn't something he shared often. Maybe ever. Not with strangers. Not with people who hadn't earned it. But Eli had earned it. Had earned honesty. Had earned truth. Had earned to know he wasn't alone. Wyatt, he was 13. 5 years ago, he got sick. Leukemia, bad, really bad. I was deployed overseas. They told me he'd be okay, that he'd make it, that the treatment was working. So I stayed, finished my mission, did my job, because that's what soldiers do. They finish the mission. Flint's jaw tightened. The old pain, the old guilt, the thing that never really heals, never really stops hurting, just becomes part of the landscape, part of who you are, part of what you carry. He died while I was gone. I never got to say goodbye, never got to be there when it mattered, to hold his hand, to tell him I loved him, to tell him he was the best thing I ever did, the only thing that mattered. I got home to a funeral, to a grave, to nothing. Flint looked at Eli, really looked, seeing him, seeing Wyatt, seeing every 13-year-old boy who deserved better, who deserved to live, who deserved to be saved. When Vera told us what you did, when I saw that jacket, saw your handwriting, it looked like Wyatt's. The same careful letters, the same trying to make your dad proud. And I thought, maybe this is the universe giving me another chance. Maybe this is my chance to save a 13-year-old kid, to be there this time, to not fail, to do what I should have done 5 years ago. The words settled between them, heavy, real, true, not manipulation, not guilt, just truth. Just two people who'd lost fathers, who'd lost sons, who'd found each other in a storm, who'd been given a second chance, a do-over, a redemption. So I'm going to offer you something, Flint continued. Direct, honest, no games, no hidden agendas, just straightforward truth. And you can say no, and that's okay, and we'll still help you, still make sure you're okay, still give you food and a place to stay until you figure out what comes next. But I want you to hear me out. I want you to consider it. I want you to know it's real. Eli nodded, wary but listening, scared but prescient, ready to run but willing to stay. For now, for this moment, for whatever came next. You can stay here, long as you want. We got a room, food, warmth, no paperwork, no system, No one trying to place you somewhere you don't want to be, just a place to exist, to heal, to figure out who you are, what you want, what comes next. No pressure, no expectations, just safety and people who give a damn. Why, Eli asked? The question that kept coming back, the question that mattered. Why would you do that? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Why would you? Why would you care? Because you deserve it. Because you proved last night that you're the kind of person who thinks about others, who sacrifices, who has honor. And honor matters. It's the only thing that really matters. And because I need to, because I need to save you, because I couldn't save Wyatt. And maybe this is how I make that right, by saving you, by being here, by not failing this time. The honesty was brutal, raw, the kind that hurt to speak, hurt to hear, but it was truth, real truth, not prettied up, not softened, just truth. Eli looked around the room, at Vera, at Marcus in the corner, at the other bikers who were starting to filter in. Morning routines, coffee, quiet conversations, lives being lived together. As family, as choice, as something that mattered. I don't know how to accept help. Then learn, Flint said. Simple, like it was that easy. Maybe it was. Maybe it could be. Stay a day, see how it feels. If you hate it, door's still unlocked. You can leave anytime, but give it a chance. Give us a chance. Give yourself a chance to not be alone, to not have to survive, to just live. Eli sat there, wrestling with something, fear, hope, the terrifying possibility that maybe this could be real, that maybe he didn't have to fight it anymore, that maybe someone would fight for him, that maybe he mattered. Okay, he said finally, so quiet it was almost lost. I'll try just for a while, and if it doesn't work, if I need to leave, you'll let me. Always, Flint promised. The door stays unlocked. That's not changing, that's forever. And something in Eli's chest loosened, just slightly, just enough. The first thread of trust, small, fragile, but there, present, beginning. The days that followed were strange. Eli waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the catch, for the moment when nice turned into not nice, when help became control, when safety became another cage, when these people showed their true faces, their real intentions, when the hurt started, but it didn't come. Instead, he learned what normal looked like. Breakfast in the morning, people asking how he slept, people saying good morning like they meant it, like they cared, like his answer mattered. Chores during the day, small things, sweeping floors, wiping tables, helping in the garage when bikes needed work. Nothing hard, nothing dangerous, just tasks. Things that needed doing, things that made him useful, that made him part of something, that gave him purpose beyond survival, beyond existing, beyond just being. Dinner with people who talked to him, not at him, who asked his opinion, asked what he thought, asked what he liked, what he wanted, treated him like he was a person, like his thoughts mattered, like he had value beyond labor, beyond utility, beyond being a problem to solve. Vera taught him to cook, started simple, scrambled eggs, how to not burn them, how to season them, how to make them taste good instead of just edible. The third morning, she found him in the kitchen before dawn, standing by the stove, not touching anything, just standing. Old habits, survival habits. Wake early, check surroundings, make sure you are safe, make sure nothing changed while you slept. Can't sleep, she asked, voice soft, not judging, just asking, just being present. Eli shook his head. Used to wake up this early, on the streets, check if anyone had come in during the night, check the exits, make sure I was still okay. Hard to break the habit. Vera nodded, understanding, not trying to fix it, not saying he didn't need to do that anymore, just accepting where he'd been, what he'd lived, what he'd survived. Want to learn something, she asked. What? Pancakes. Real ones. From scratch. Not the box stuff, the good stuff. Eli watched her measure flour. Crack eggs. The rhythm of her movements. Practiced. Sure. Confident. Like this was something she'd done 1,000 times. Like this was muscle memory. Like this was home. She handed him the whisk. Your turn. His hand shook slightly. What if I mess it up? Then we eat messy pancakes. World keeps spinning. Nobody dies. We just try again. That's the thing about cooking, about learning, about life. You mess up. You try again. You get better. That's how it works. They worked in silence, comfortable silence, the kind that didn't need filling, the kind that felt safe, felt good, felt like belonging. Vera showed him how to test the griddle, how to know when to flip, how to tell when they were done. The small details that separated good from great, that made the difference between food and a meal, between surviving and living. My dad used to make pancakes, Eli said. Not planned, just came out, just needed to be said. Sunday mornings, he'd make them into shapes, animals, cursed dinosaurs, whatever I wanted. Said food tastes better when it makes you smile. Vera nodded. Didn't push, didn't pry, just listened, just created space for the memory, for the grief, for the missing, for the love that didn't go away just because someone died. I haven't had pancakes since he died, Eli continued, voice thick, fighting something. Didn't think I'd ever have them again. Didn't think I'd ever have someone to make them with. Well, Vera said, flipping the last one, plating them, handing Eli the stack. Now you know how to make them yourself. Anytime you want, anytime you need to remember him, anytime you need to smile, you can make pancakes, you can remember, you can. You can keep him with you that way. Eli stared at the plate, stack of golden pancakes, imperfect, uneven, not shaped like anything, just circles, just food, but beautiful, because someone taught him. Someone cared enough to show him. Someone wanted him to know, to be able to do this, to have this skill, this memory, this connection. Thank you, he said, for more than the pancakes, for the lesson, for the memory, for making it okay to remember, for showing him his father wasn't gone. Not really, not while Eli carried him, remembered him, honored him, loved him. Marcus taught him about engines, how they worked, the pieces, the systems, the way everything connected, the way each part mattered, the way you couldn't have one without the others, the way it was all connected. See this? Marcus said, holding up a spark plug. Looks small, insignificant, but without it, engine doesn't run. Doesn't matter how good everything else is. Without this, nothing works. That's the thing about systems, about machines, about people. Every part matters. Every piece has value. You take one out, the whole thing fails. Eli held the spark plug, felt its weight, its size, something so small, so seemingly insignificant, but essential, necessary, required. You're like a spark plug, Marcus said, voice gentle, making sure Eli heard, making sure he understood. Small maybe, young definitely, but essential. You matter. What you did, who you are, that matters. This place works better because you're here. We work better because you're here. You're not taking up space. You're filling space that needed filling. You're necessary. Eli didn't know what to say to that, didn't know how to accept it, how to believe it. But he held on to the spark plug, held on to the metaphor, held on to the possibility that maybe he did matter. Maybe his presence made a difference. Maybe he wasn't just existing. Maybe he was actually valuable. Flint didn't teach him anything. Not directly, not with lessons, not with instructions. Flint just existed near him, not hovering, not controlling, not demanding, just there, present, steady, reliable. Every morning Flint was up, coffee made, kitchen warm, present. Every evening Flint was there, dinner time, asking about the day, asking how Eli was doing, listening, actually listening. Like the answer mattered, like Eli mattered. Every night Flint said good night, simple, direct, see you tomorrow. The promise of continuity, the promise of presence, the promise that he'd still be there, that this wasn't temporary, that this wasn't going away. And slowly, very slowly, Eli started to believe it, started to trust it, started to accept that maybe this was real. Maybe these people actually cared. Maybe he'd found something worth keeping, worth fighting for, worth choosing. Christmas came. Eli had forgotten it was Christmas. Days blurred together. Time moved strange. But Vera handed him a package on December 25th. Small, wrapped in newspaper because they didn't have wrapping paper. Didn't need fancy, just needed care, just needed thought. "What's this?" Eli asked. Suspicious, uncertain, not used to gifts, not used to people thinking about him, planning for him, spending money on him. "Christmas present," Vera said. Simple, like it was obvious. Like of course she'd gotten him something. Like of course he mattered enough for presence, for thought, for care. Eli opened it slowly, carefully, not wanting to damage the paper, not wanting to rush, not wanting this moment to end, because this moment was everything, was proof, was real. Inside was a jacket, new jacket, heavy, warm, quality, not expensive but good, functional, the kind that would last, the kind that would keep him alive through winters, through storms, through whatever came next. "So you can give that one a rest," Vera said, pointing to his dad's jacket hanging nearby. "Keep it safe, keep it special, keep it for when you need it, when you need to remember. But have this one for living, for every day, for staying warm without risking the one that matters most." Eli stared at the new jacket, at the gift, at the thought someone had put into this. Someone had seen a need, had filled it, had cared enough to think, to plan, to act, to make sure he had what he needed, what would help, what would keep him safe. "Thank you," he managed, voice rough, thick, fighting back something that wanted to break, fighting back tears, fighting back the emotion, the gratitude, the overwhelming sense of being seen, being cared for, being loved. Because that's what this was. This was love, different from his father's love, different from family, but love nonetheless, chosen love, earned love, the love of people who showed up, who stayed, who cared, who made sure you were okay, who made sure you survived, who made sure you knew you mattered. New Year's Eve, they celebrated. Quiet. No big party, just the brotherhood. Food. Drinks for those who drank. Hot chocolate for Eli. Toast to the year ahead. Toast to survival. Toast to family. Toast to second chances. Toast to the things that mattered. Flint raised his glass, looked around the room, looked at Eli specifically, met his eyes, held them. "To second chances," he said, voice carrying, voice meaning every word. "And to the kid who reminded us what matters, who reminded us why we do this, why we exist, why we're brothers, to Eli, who gave everything and got everything back. Welcome home, kid. Welcome home. Everyone drank, Eli too. Hot chocolate in a beer mug, feeling part of something, feeling like he belonged, feeling like he'd found it, like he'd found home, like he'd found family, like he'd found the thing he thought he'd lost forever when his father died. Like maybe the storm had taken him somewhere he needed to be. Maybe almost dying had led him to actually living. Maybe giving away his jacket had saved not just Vera, but himself too, in ways he couldn't have predicted, couldn't have known, couldn't have imagined. January 22nd arrived cold and gray. 1 month, 30 days since that night, since the storm, since the choice, since everything changed, since his life became something worth living. Another storm was rolling in, not as bad as before, but bad enough. Weather advisory, warnings, stay inside, stay safe, don't take chances. Eli stood by the window, watching snow start to fall, remembering 1 month ago, the jacket, the cold, the decision that should have killed him, but instead saved him, instead brought him here, instead gave him this life, this family, this home. He'd been back to that moment 100 times in his head, trying to understand why he'd done it, why he'd given everything away. Whether it had been bravery or stupidity or desperation or fate or something else, something bigger, something he couldn't name but could feel, could recognize, could accept. He still didn't have an answer, but he didn't regret it. Couldn't regret something that had led him here, to this, to people who cared, to a place that felt like it might actually be home, like it might actually last, like it might actually be real. Movement outside caught his eye. Small, hunched, someone walking, someone young, someone fighting the cold, someone looking for something, looking for help, looking for hope, looking for the thing Eli had found 1 month ago. A girl, maybe 12, thin, wearing clothes that weren't enough, shivering, lost, scared, alone. Eli recognized that walk, that posture, that desperate searching for anywhere warm, that look of someone who'd run out of options, who'd been turned away too many times, who didn't know where else to go, what else to do, how much longer they could survive. He grabbed his new jacket, the one Vera had given him, warm, heavy, safe, pulled it on, headed for the door. "Where are you going?" Marcus called out. Concern, curiosity, not control, not demand, just asking, just caring. "Be right back," Eli said, already moving, already knowing, already understanding what he needed to do, what his father would have done, what he'd learned that night, what mattered most. Outside, the cold hit hard, but manageable. He was dressed for it now, protected, safe, equipped. Not like before, not like that night. This time he could survive. This time he had backup. This time he wasn't alone. The girl was moving away, down the street, away from hope, away from help, away from the thing that could save her. Eli ran to catch up, boots crunching in snow, breath coming out in clouds, heart pounding. Not from exertion, from recognition, from memory, from understanding. "Hey," he called out, voice carrying, voice strong, voice certain. The girl turned, scared, ready to run, ready to fight, ready to do whatever survival required. "You look cold," Eli said, stopping, giving her space, not threatening, not demanding, just offering, just seeing, just caring. "I'm fine," she said, automatic. The same words everyone uses when they're not fine at all. The same words Eli had said. The same lie everyone tells. The same defense everyone uses. Eli smiled. small, understanding, knowing. Because he'd been her 1 month ago. Same storm, same cold, same trying to survive, same not knowing, same not having anyone, same being alone. You're not fine, he said, gentle, not accusing, not judging, just stating truth, just offering reality, just showing her someone saw her, someone understood, someone cared. I know because I was you 1 month ago. Same storm, same cold, same trying to survive, same having nowhere, no one, nothing. She looked at him, suspicious but curious, scared but hopeful, closed but wanting to open, alone but wanting something, wanting help, wanting to matter, wanting to be saved. There's a place, Eli said, gesturing back toward the den, toward the lights, toward the warmth, toward home. Warm, safe, people who care, no questions, no system, no one trying to hurt you, just help if you want it, if you choose it, if you're brave enough to try. Why would you help me? The same question, the same doubt, the same fear, the same not understanding why anyone would care, why anyone would try, why anyone would bother. Because someone helped me when they didn't have to, when it didn't make sense, when I didn't deserve it, and it saved my life. And now I'm paying it forward. Now I'm doing what someone did for me. Now I'm being what I needed someone to be. He unzipped his new jacket, started to take it off. What are you doing? The girl said, stepping back, confused, scared, not understanding. Giving you this. It's warm. It'll keep you alive until we get inside, until you're safe, until you're okay. I can't take your jacket. Yeah, you can. Trust me. I know exactly how this works. I know exactly what this means. I know exactly what I'm doing. He pulled it off, felt the cold immediately. But it was okay. It was manageable. It was survivable because he was 30 feet from warmth, from safety, from home, because he had backup, because he wasn't alone, because people were waiting, caring, ready to help, ready to save, ready to show her what he'd been shown. That people mattered, that kindness existed, that family wasn't just blood, that home wasn't just a place, that sometimes strangers became family, sometimes giving became getting, sometimes losing became finding, sometimes dying became living. He held it out. She stared at it, at him, at the impossibility, at the gift, at the choice, at the chance, at the hope. Trust me, Eli said, voice sure, voice certain, voice knowing. Take it, come inside, just for tonight, just to get warm, just to see if you don't like it. You can leave, doors never locked, but give it a chance. Give yourself a chance to not be alone, to not have to survive, to just, to just be safe. She took the jacket, slow, careful, like it might disappear, like it might be a dream, like good things didn't happen to girls like her, like help wasn't real, like people didn't care. But taking it anyway, choosing it anyway, hoping anyway. Eli turned, started walking back. The girl followed, hesitant, but following, scared but coming, alone but not, not anymore, not now, not with him, not with what waited inside, not with the family that had saved him. That would save her. That would show her what mattered, show her what home felt like, show her what love meant. They walked into the iron den together, into warmth, into light, into the place that had saved Eli, that was about to save her, that would keep saving people, keep offering chances, keep refusing to let people die alone in storms. Flint looked up from the bar, saw Eli, saw the girl, saw Eli without his jacket again. Understanding crossed his face, recognition, pride. The pride of a father, the pride of a teacher, the pride of someone who'd taught well, who'd shown the way, who'd made a difference. Found someone who needed help, Eli said. Simple, direct, the way his father would have said it, the way Flint had said it, the way people said things that mattered, that were true, that needed no explanation, no justification, no defense. Then she's in the right place, Flint said. Looked at the girl, saw her fear, saw her hope, saw her need, saw what Eli had been 1 month ago, saw what he'd become, saw the cycle, saw the beauty, saw the meaning. You hungry? She nodded, small, afraid, but nodding, but accepting, but choosing, but trusting, but hoping, but being brave, but taking the chance, but letting herself be saved. Vera was already moving, getting food, getting blankets, getting ready to save another life, getting ready to show another person what family meant, what home felt like, what love looked like when it was real, when it was chosen, when it was earned. The girl looked at Eli, question in her eyes. Is this real? Can I trust this? Will this hurt? Will this help? Will this save me? Will this be okay? It's real, Eli said, answering what she didn't ask, knowing what she needed to hear, remembering what he'd needed to hear, what he'd needed to believe, what he'd needed to accept. They saved me. They'll save you too. You just have to let them. You just have to choose it. You just have to be brave enough to stay. Flint walked over, put his hand on Eli's shoulder, the gesture his father used to make, the gesture that meant you did good, you made me proud, you understood, you learned, you became the man I hoped you'd be. You became the son I needed you to be. You became enough. Your dad would be proud of you, Flint said. Quiet, just for Eli, just between them, just the truth, just the honor, just the recognition, just the love. Yeah, Eli said, looking at the girl, at Vera helping her, at the Brotherhood rallying, at the family doing what family does, saving, helping, caring, being present, being real, being there. He would be. That night, Eli stood in his room, the space that was his, in the place that was home, in the building that was family, in the life that was his, that he'd earned, that he'd chosen, that he'd fought for, that he'd survived for, that mattered. His father's jacket hung on the wall, clean, repaired, cherished. The note still in the pocket. This jacket saved me for 334 days. The history, the memory, the connection, the love. Beside it, a plaque. Flint had made it, mounted it below the jacket, words carved in wood, simple, true, real. The boy who wore this jacket reminded 30 men what honor looks like. Eli touched the fabric, felt the memories, felt his father's presence, strong as ever, maybe stronger. Because now Eli understood. Now he knew what his father had meant, what he'd taught, what mattered. I get it now, Dad, Eli whispered, voice sure, voice certain, voice knowing. What you meant about protecting people, about it being the only thing that matters, about sacrifice, about courage, about choosing others, about being strong. I get it. I understand. I'm living it. Outside snow fell, another storm, another night, but inside it was warm, safe, full of people who'd chosen each other, who'd chosen to be family not because they had to, but because that's what mattered, because that's what it meant to be human, to care, to help, to save, to be present, to be real, to be there. Eli Brennan, 13 years old, homeless 11 months ago, found his way home by giving away the only thing keeping him alive. And in return, He'd gotten everything: a place, a purpose, a family, a life, a future, a reason, a meaning, a home, and the knowledge that his father's legacy lived on in him, in the choices he made, in the people he helped, in the honor he carried, in the love he gave, in the life he lived, in the man he was becoming. The jacket had saved his father's life, had saved Eli's life, and now it hung on a wall, a reminder, a lesson, a promise, a symbol, a testament that one act of kindness, one moment of sacrifice, one choice to give could change everything, could save a life, could create a family, could build a home, could make meaning, could matter, could be everything. Downstairs, voices rose, laughter, the girl saying something, the Brotherhood responding, welcome, acceptance, family, the cycle continuing, the pattern repeating, the love spreading, the hope growing, the meaning expanding. Eli smiled, turned away from the jacket, headed downstairs, toward the warmth, toward his people, toward home, toward family, toward life, toward everything that mattered, toward the future, toward tomorrow, toward the next person who needed saving, toward the next storm, toward the next chance, toward the next choice, toward the next moment that would define everything. Because that's what heroes did. Real heroes, the kind his father had been, the kind Eli was becoming, the kind the world needed, the kind that saved, that helped, that cared, that chose others, that sacrificed, that gave, that loved. They showed up, they stayed, they fought, they refused to let people die alone. They created family from strangers. They built homes from broken places. They made meaning from chaos. They chose hope over despair. They chose life over death. They chose love over fear. They chose, and in choosing, they became. They became everything. They became enough. They became exactly what was needed, exactly when it was needed, exactly who they were meant to be. And Eli Brennan, son of Silas Brennan, member of the Iron Brotherhood, survivor, protector, hero, brother, son, friend, family, was home.